Captain Arya Renner stood at the helm of the Odyssey, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. For the past 2 years, she and her crew had been on a deep space exploration mission, charting unknown territories, but it felt like the universe had gone quiet. No new discoveries, no signals, just the endless void. Arya leaned over the console, tapping a few keys. The ship's sensors blinked to life, casting soft blue lights on her face. Still nothing, she muttered to herself. It was then, almost imperceptibly, that the signal came through. At first, it was so faint that it seemed like a glitch in the system, just static. But then, something unusual happened. A string of numbers began to flash on the screen. It wasn't a code she had ever seen before, not even one used by any known alien species or human federation. She stared at it, her heart quickening. "Report, Ensign," she ordered. Ensign Tark, sitting at the communications panel, turned to her with wide eyes. It's a direct message, Captain. But I don't know where it's coming from." "Play it," Arya commanded. The screen flickered, then the voice came through, low, distorted, and clear. "The stars are waiting, Captain Renner." Arya froze. The voice was unmistakably human, but had an eerie quality to it. The mention of her name sent a chill through her. Tarek scrambled at his console, trying to trace the signal's origin. "I can't lock onto it, Captain. It's like it's everywhere and nowhere at once." "Impossible," Arya said under her breath. "Run a full scan. Find out where this is coming from." But as the crew scrambled to analyze the anomaly, another voice, louder and more insistent, boomed through the ship's speakers. "Captain Renner, you have been chosen." The air in the control room grew heavy. Arya's eyes darted to her crew. They were all frozen, wide-eyed and silent. "Chosen for what?" Arya demanded, her voice betraying the uncertainty she felt deep within. The voice responded, colder this time, "To take part in the voyage of the stars. The first human heir to cross the galactic threshold. You are the key." Before Arya could process what had just been said, the ship's systems began to power down on their own. The console lights dimmed, and a sharp, hollow sound echoed through the ship. The countdown appeared on her screen. T-minus 60 seconds. "What's happening?" shouted Tarek. Arya reached for the controls, but it was too late. The ship jolted as the engines engaged themselves, pushing the crew backward in their seats. The view outside the observation window twisted, as if the fabric of space itself was bending. And then the ship lurched forward, faster than any speed Arya had ever experienced. "Captain, we're going faster than light," Tarek gasped. "We can't control it." The stars outside the ship's window seemed to stretch into long lines, blending together into a swirling mass of light and shadow. Arya gripped the armrest of her chair, her mind racing. A faint, ethereal glow enveloped the ship, and through it, the voice returned, speaking softly. "You are not just a captain. You are the heir. The galaxy is waiting for you." This opening part sets up an intriguing mystery with a strange signal, the mention of Captain Arya's name, and the sudden loss of control over the ship. The twist at the end where the ship accelerates to faster-than-light speeds adds a suspenseful element that'll keep the audience hooked for what's to come. The Odyssey hurtled through space, its engines screaming in protest as they pushed past light speed, a phenomenon no human ship had ever survived until now. Arya gripped the edge of her seat, her knuckles white. She could feel the tension in the air as the ship's crew clung to their control panels, helplessly watching the blinking countdown on the screen. "Where are we?" Tarek's voice trembled as he tried to adjust the scanners. "Something's wrong," Arya muttered. "This isn't a normal jump. We've crossed into somewhere." Suddenly, the ship began to shake violently, throwing the crew from their seats. On the view screen, the stars outside twisted into serpentine patterns, each one blurring into a glowing stream of colors that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. "Captain!" Tarek shouted, his voice laced with panic. "The stars! They're not stars anymore. They're alive." Arya's eyes widened. The entire universe outside the window seemed to warp into a vibrant swirl of color and shadow. But that wasn't what unnerved her the most. What scared her was a faint, yet unmistakable hum that now reverberated throughout the ship. It wasn't the engine's usual sound. This hum was deeper, almost organic. It seemed to resonate within her chest, vibrating with frequency that felt personal. Her heart rate increased as her mind tried to grasp what was happening. The air, the voice whispered again, a faint echo in the back of her mind. Not again. Arya slammed her fist against the console. Who's doing this? The voice didn't respond directly, but the ship's AI system flickered to life on the main screen. A map of the galaxy appeared, except it was completely unfamiliar. There were no recognizable stars, no known planets. It was as if they were in a new galaxy entirely, one that no human had ever charted. This isn't our galaxy, Arya muttered under her breath, leaning in closer to the screen. How do we get here? The map zoomed in on a single glowing point, pulsating with energy. At the center of the star system, an enormous, shifting structure loomed. It was like nothing Arya had ever seen. A massive ringed object, but the rings weren't just made of dust. They were made of what looked like living material. Something organic, breathing. It's calling us, Tarek said, his eyes wide with disbelief. Before Arya could respond, the ship lurched again, this time with an alarming force. It felt as though they were being pulled by some unseen force, drawn closer to the glowing point. No, Arya shouted, slamming her hand down on the control panel. I'm in charge here. We can't just follow whatever's pulling us. But it was no use. The controls remained locked, as though the ship itself had a mind of its own. The view outside the window changed again, and this time, Arya saw a fleet of strange ships, elegant, sleek, and glowing, emerging from the pulsating structure. They moved silently, like shadows in the dark. There were hundreds of them, all circling the massive object, waiting. Suddenly, the voice came again, louder this time, almost like a chorus. Captain Arya Renner, you have been chosen. You will be the one to lead us, the one to awaken what sleeps. What sleeps? Arya demanded, her voice shaking with frustration. What the hell do you want from me? The response came in a tone that was both soothing and chilling. The stars have chosen you to unlock the ancient doors. You are the heir, the one who will guide us back to our rightful place among the stars. The ship's engine surged, and Arya felt her body being thrown forward. The crew screamed as the ship was pulled into the heart of the glowing structure. The last thing Arya saw before the world went dark was a vast, gaping doorway in the center of the structure, an entrance into the unknown. This part pushes Arya deeper into the mystery and introduces the idea that she has a greater, unknown purpose tied to her identity as the heir. The strange organic galaxy, the fleet of unknown ships, and the mysterious voice all hint at a much larger cosmic mystery that will unfold in the next parts. When Arya opened her eyes, she found herself floating in the center of an enormous chamber. The air was thick with an otherworldly hum, vibrating through her body, her mind, her soul. It wasn't like being on a ship anymore. This place felt ancient, alive. The walls, if you could call them walls, were translucent, pulsating with a strange light, shifting colors like the ocean waves under a starry sky. The crew was with her, disoriented, but alive. Tarek was the first to stir, his hand gripping the nearest console, as if anchoring himself to reality. His eyes scanned the surroundings, wide with confusion. "Captain, what is this place?" he asked, his voice shaky. "I wish I knew," Arya replied, pushing herself to her feet. The moment she moved, a soft pressure surrounded her, as though the room itself was welcoming her, responding to her presence. She shook off the feeling, focusing on the matter at hand. "Check the systems. I want to know where we are." "Systems are down," Tarek said. "We're on backup power and the AI's offline. It's like we've been disconnected from everything." But Arya wasn't listening. She felt a pull, something deep inside her, compelling her toward the center of the chamber. There in the center was a massive crystal, glowing with an intense, vibrant blue light. It hovered just above a pedestal, swirling with energy. Without thinking, she took a step forward. The instant her foot touched the ground, the crystal flickered, and a voice echoed throughout the chamber. It wasn't just in her ears. It was in her mind, in her very being. You have come, the air. The voice was calm, resonant, ancient. The time has come to awaken. Arya's heart skipped a beat. The same voice, the one that had been speaking to her through the ship, through the stars, was here in her mind, in this place. She reached out, touching the crystal surface. A surge of energy shot through her, and her vision blurred. She saw flashes of distant stars, worlds she had never seen before, alien landscapes unlike anything in human history. A memory, no, a vision, formed in her mind, vivid and crystal clear. She saw a great battle fought between beings of light and dark, across a galaxy filled with ancient civilizations. And at the heart of it all was her, not as a captain, but as a leader, an heir to a lost, forgotten empire. The crystal pulsed again, and Arya gasped, snapping back to reality. She pulled her hand away, her breath coming in short gasps. You're not just a captain, the voice continued, its tone almost affectionate now. You are the one, the heir to the forgotten empire of the stars. Your bloodline runs through these veins, just as it ran through the stars. The time has come to restore what was lost. Arya stumbled backward, her head spinning. She couldn't process what was happening. The heir to an empire? A lost legacy? How could this be real? I don't understand, she whispered, her voice hoarse. I'm just a captain, a human captain. I don't. You are more than that, Arya Renner. The voice cut through her thoughts like a blade, commanding, yet oddly comforting. The galaxy is waiting for you. Your true journey begins now. Suddenly, the chamber rumbled, a deep vibration echoing through the walls. The crystal flickered once more, and then a doorway opened in the center of the chamber, revealing a corridor made of glowing stone. At the end of the hallway, a massive structure loomed, its outline obscured by a shimmering, hazy veil. This isn't possible, Tarek said, his voice trembling. Where are we? What is this place? Are we in some kind of alien structure? Not alien, Arya whispered. Ancient. She moved toward the doorway, driven by a force she couldn't explain. It was as if the universe itself had been guiding her steps, drawing her closer to something she couldn't yet understand. The walls seemed to part as she walked, the crystal's energy radiating through her every step. The crew followed her, uncertain but unable to resist the pull. Arya didn't know what awaited them at the end of the hall, but something inside her knew that this was only the beginning, and whatever was coming, she had been chosen to face it. As they walked deeper into the unknown, the voice in her mind spoke once more, its tone solemn. The galaxy will remember you, Arya Renner, the heir who returned, the one who will restore balance. This part takes the story in a unique direction, further revealing Arya's role as the heir and her connection to an ancient galactic legacy. The new setting, strange crystal and intense visions push the narrative forward, adding layers of mystery and danger. The pull to the unknown builds a sense of inevitability for Arya's journey ahead. The air grew colder as Arya and her crew walked deeper into the corridor. The walls, now seemingly made of strange, liquid-like material, shimmered as though they were alive, pulsing with energy. The soft hum from earlier had returned, louder this time, vibrating through the air like the heartbeat of the entire structure. Arya led the way, though she wasn't sure why. There was something about the corridor, something ancient and powerful, that made her feel like this was her path. The others followed, but there was hesitation in their footsteps. None of them spoke. Words seemed inadequate in the face of what they were experiencing. What was this place? What did it want with them? As they reached the end of the hall, the shimmering veil parted, revealing a vast chamber unlike anything Arya had ever imagined. It was more than a room. It felt like the very center of the galaxy itself. In the center stood an enormous obelisk, covered in intricate symbols that glowed with an ethereal light. It wasn't made of any known material. It was alive, just like the walls, humming with energy, as though it were a living being. This can't be real, Tarek whispered, his voice trembling as he approached the obelisk. Arya felt the same sense of awe, but beneath it, there was something darker, something she couldn't quite place. She felt a pulse, deep within her chest, a connection that grew stronger with each step she took toward the obelisk. It was like it was calling to her, urging her forward. "What is this place?" Ensign Lee asked, his voice quiet and filled with awe. "I don't know," Arya replied, her eyes fixed on the obelisk. "But I think we're meant to be here." The moment her hand touched the surface of the obelisk, the room seemed to come alive. The symbols on the obelisk flared with blinding light, and the chamber around them shifted, warping like liquid in a storm. Arya stumbled back, but the light grew brighter, more intense. A voice, deeper than before, echoed through her mind, so powerful that it felt like it was inside her very thoughts. "The Nexus is awakening," the voice said, reverberating through the space. "The moment of convergence is upon you, Arya Renner." Arya's knees buckled and she fell to ground, gripping her head as visions of galaxies, stars, and civilizations flashed before her eyes. She saw the rise and fall of empires, battles fought across time, and the endless war between light and darkness that spanned the stars. But in the center of it all, she saw herself, standing at the heart of the Nexus, a being of immense power. Her hands glowed with the energy of the stars themselves. "You are the one who will choose," the voice continued, its tone calm yet insistent. "You will restore what has been lost. The path of the air is not an easy one, but it is your destiny." "Restoring what?" Arya gasped, fighting to stay conscious. "What is it that you want me to do?" The voice did not answer directly. Instead, the obelisk pulsed again, and Arya felt a strange energy coursing through her body, filling her with a sense of urgency. Suddenly, the walls of the chamber began to dissolve, revealing a swirling vortex of light and shadow. The space around her twisted, warping the fabric of time itself. It was as if she were standing at the very edge of the universe, on the brink of something that defied understanding. "Arya, what's happening?" Tarek's voice was faint, as though it was coming from a distance. He and the crew had backed away, but Arya couldn't move. The pull was too strong. "The moment of convergence," the voice repeated. "The Nexus will reveal your choice. The stars will either be reborn, or they will be lost forever." Before she could react, a flash of light erupted from the center of the vortex. Arya was thrown backward, her body consumed by the brilliance. Her mind was flooded with images of the future, of battles yet to be fought, of an empire either saved or destroyed depending on the choices she made. The weight of the decision pressed down on her like 1,000 suns. And then everything stopped. The light dimmed. The vortex collapsed. Arya gasped for air, her hands trembling as she struggled to stand. The chamber was still, its eerie glow now gone. The obelisk had disappeared, leaving only a blank space behind. The crew stood around her, staring in stunned silence. "What was that?" Ensign Lee whispered. Arya's heart pounded in her chest. She knew, in that moment, that nothing would ever be the same. The path she was on was no longer just about survival. It was about saving or destroying the very fabric of the universe itself. "The Nexus," Arya said quietly, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling inside her. "It showed me the future. The universe, it's at a crossroads, and I have to choose." Arya stood at the edge of the now silent chamber, her body trembling with the aftermath of what she had just experienced. The Nexus had shown her glimpses of a future that was as beautiful as it was terrifying. Yet, the more she thought about it, the more uncertain she became. The weight of the decision ahead of her pressed on her chest like a collapsing star. "What just happened?" Tarek's voice cut through her thoughts. He was standing a few steps away, his face pale, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What did we see?" Arya didn't have an answer. She wasn't sure she had seen the future, or if it had been an illusion, a projection of possibilities. But she knew one thing for sure. The Nexus had shown her something no one was meant to witness, and it had placed a choice in her hands. A choice that could alter the course of the entire galaxy. "The Nexus is an ancient force," Arya said, her voice distant. "It exists beyond time, beyond space. It's trying to make me its key, but I don't know if I'm ready." Ensign Lee stepped forward, his face full of concern. "Captain, what do you mean? The Nexus called you the heir. Does that mean—" "I don't know what it means," Arya snapped, cutting him off. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do. The fate of everything, it rests on my shoulders now." But just as the words left her mouth, something shifted in the air. A faint hum, like a whisper, echoed through the chamber. Arya's eyes snapped up, scanning the empty space. "Did you hear that?" she asked. "Hear what?" Tark replied. "The voice," she whispered. "It's still here." Suddenly, the room darkened. The walls pulsed with a soft glow, but the atmosphere grew colder, more oppressive. Arya's heart raced. She wasn't alone. A figure materialized before her, a tall, shadowy form cloaked in darkness. It was neither human nor alien, but something in between, an entity that seemed to exist in the spaces between dimensions. "You are not the only one who has been called, Captain Renner." The voice reverberated in her mind. The figure spoke without moving its lips. "I am a hand that guides, the one who shapes destinies." Arya stepped back, her hand instinctively reaching for the blaster at her side, though she knew it would do little to protect her. The figure's presence was overwhelming. It wasn't just an entity. It was an embodiment of power, of fate itself. "You—" Arya's voice faltered, but she forced herself to speak. "Who are you?" "I am the one who controls the balance," the figure answered, its form flickering like a shadow caught in the wind. "You are not the first to be chosen, but you are the one who will decide." "Decide what?" Arya demanded, her fear turning into determination. "What do you want from me?" "The Nexus showed me the future, but it didn't tell me what I'm supposed to do with it. I'm not a ruler. I'm just a captain." The figure tilted its head, its glowing eyes locking onto hers. "The heir does not choose her destiny, Arya Renner. Destiny chooses her." Arya's mind raced. She was beginning to understand that she wasn't just facing a force of nature. She was facing something far more dangerous, a being that had been manipulating events long before she ever stepped foot on the Odyssey. It was orchestrating her path, pushing her toward the Nexus. "The universe will fall into chaos unless you act," the figure continued, its voice becoming more insistent. "The stars are dying, and the old empire must rise again. Your bloodline is the key to restoring balance. You have no choice but to awaken the power inside you." Arya's blood ran cold. Restore balance? What empire? What power? The figure's eyes glowed brighter, and its presence seemed to grow larger, filling the entire chamber. "The Empire of the Stars, an ancient race that once ruled the galaxy. They are gone, but their legacy lives on within you. The power of the Nexus is bound to you now, Arya Renner. You must embrace it." A sudden shock ran through Arya's body, like a bolt of lightning that lit up every nerve. She stumbled, almost falling, but the figure's voice pulled her back. "The power is yours to command, but first you must decide. Will you save the galaxy, or will you let it burn?" The chamber began to collapse around them, the walls crumbling into dust, the air thick with the weight of ancient secrets. Arya's heart hammered in her chest as she realized the true nature of her decision. It wasn't just about restoring balance. It was about choosing which path the galaxy would take, one of salvation or one of destruction. As the figure disappeared into the darkness, the hum of the chamber grew louder, more frantic, as though it, too, was awaiting her answer. Arya stood alone in the heart of the chamber, the weight of the figure's words still echoing in her mind. The air was thick with uncertainty, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The Nexus pulsed around her, its energies crackling in the atmosphere like static before a storm. Her crew stood nearby, their faces pale and uncertain, unsure what was unfolding or what their captain would decide. "I'm not ready for this," Arya whispered, her voice trembling. She had thought she was just a captain, guiding her crew through the stars. But now, she was something else, an heir to an empire, a being who could restore balance or tear the galaxy apart. Tarek stepped forward, his expression filled with concern. "Captain, what did that thing mean? What empire? What are we supposed to do?" Arya shook her head, her thoughts swirling in confusion. "I don't know, but whatever's happening here, it's bigger than us. I can feel it. I was chosen for something I don't understand." Just as she spoke, the walls of the chamber flickered, and a new voice cut through the silence. It wasn't the figure from before, but something different, familiar, yet distant. This voice was soft, almost pleading. "You must listen to me, Arya Renner," it said, reverberating through her mind. "You must understand what you are truly facing. Arya stiffened, her pulse quickening. Who is this? The voice responded, this time clearer, more urgent. I am the last of the ancients. I was once part of the empire you now carry in your blood, the power the Nexus holds. It's not meant to be wielded by any one being. It's a force beyond comprehension. And if you awaken it fully, you will bring about the destruction of everything, not just the galaxy, but all of existence. Arya's stomach turned. What do you mean, destruction? The Nexus promised to restore balance. The voice seemed to hesitate, as though it were choosing its words carefully. Balance? No, the Nexus is not a tool of balance. It is a weapon of creation, and creation requires destruction. The universe you know will collapse under its weight. The room seemed to close in on her as she processed the enormity of the revelation. The weight of the choice ahead of her was unbearable. She could feel the power of the Nexus thrumming within her, pulsing through her veins, urging her to take control. But now, doubt began to creep in. Was the voice right? Was the restoration of an ancient empire worth the risk of destroying everything else? Then what am I supposed to do? Arya asked, her voice breaking. You say I can't awaken this power, but I have no choice. The universe is on the brink of war. I have to choose. The voice seemed to grow softer, almost mournful. You do have a choice, Arya. The power within you is yours to command, but you must be the one to choose what you awaken. If you let the Nexus flow through you unchecked, it will consume everything. Your crew, your people, the stars themselves. Arya's heart pounded in her chest. She was being given a choice that no one should ever have to make. The fate of the galaxy rested in her hands, and yet she couldn't understand the full extent of what she was being asked to do. I can't do this alone, Arya said, her voice hoarse. I don't even know what the right choice is. You never will, the voice replied softly. There is no right or wrong, only consequences. The Nexus has no morality. It simply is. A cold gust of wind swept through the chamber, and Arya's eyes widened. The walls began to crumble, the floor cracking beneath her feet. The Nexus reacted violently to the tension in the air, its power surging wildly, the energy growing erratic. In the midst of the chaos, a single figure appeared before her, an image so vivid, it was as if time had frozen. Standing before her was a woman, her eyes filled with ancient wisdom, her features familiar. The woman stepped forward, her presence calm but powerful, as if she had been waiting for this moment for millennia. You know me, the woman said, her voice resonating with a deep, ancestral tone. I am your true ancestor, the first heir to the Empire of the Stars. You are not just a captain. You are the one destined to awaken the legacy of our people. The Nexus calls to you, Arya. Arya's breath caught in her throat. You're me, or someone like me. The woman smiled faintly, her eyes glowing with the same blue energy as the Nexus itself. Yes, you are more than you realize. You carry the power of the stars in your blood, but it is up to you to decide what that power means. Will you be the one to restore the Empire, or will you forge a new path? The vision of the woman began to fade, leaving Arya standing alone, surrounded by the crumbling walls of the Nexus. The storm raged, and the power of the ancient empire threatened to consume everything in its path. In that moment, Arya knew what she had to do. She had to make her choice and live with its consequences. The chamber trembled, the very fabric of the Nexus beginning to tear as Arya stood alone in the heart of its power. The walls, once fluid and pulsing with energy, were now cracking, disintegrating under the weight of the storm that raged through the galaxy. It wasn't just a room that was collapsing. It was a universe itself, teetering on the edge of destruction. Arya closed her eyes, taking a deep breath as she tried to center herself amidst the chaos. The voices in her mind had become louder, more insistent. The ancient force, the Nexus, was calling her, but now she understood something she hadn't before. It wasn't calling her to lead. It was calling her to unite. The ancient empire's legacy, the one she had been chosen to restore, wasn't just about ruling the stars. It was about something deeper, something that transcended empires, war, and power. It was about the unity of all life, across galaxies, across species, tied together by a force she could barely comprehend. The energy around her crackled and hummed with the weight of untold possibilities. each one as beautiful as it was terrifying. She could feel the potential to reshape the galaxy, to heal its wounds, but she could also feel the dangerous temptation to let the Nexus flow unchecked. Its power so overwhelming, it could obliterate everything in its path. You must choose, Arya Renner. The voice of the ancient figure echoed in her mind again. You hold the balance. The fate of all things rests with you. She turned toward the swirling vortex at the center of the room, where the Nexus pulsed with a blinding light. The energy was overwhelming, a tide pulling at her very soul. It wanted to consume her, to make her a part of its ancient will. But Arya wasn't ready to be consumed. She wasn't ready to let the power decide for her. She had seen the destruction, the devastation that came with unbridled control. But she had also seen the beauty, the connection between all beings, the vast potential for peace and understanding. With a steadying breath, Arya stepped forward, her boots clicking softly against the fractured floor. The Nexus roared louder, the power surging through the room, wrapping around her like a storm. She could feel it try to pull her in, could feel the power pressing against her chest, urging her to submit. But then, she remembered the words of the last figure, the ancestor who had revealed her true heritage. You are not just a vessel for the past, Arya Renner. You are the key to the future. The future. It wasn't about bringing the Empire back. It wasn't about ruling. It was about forging something new, a galaxy not divided by war, but united by understanding. Arya reached out, her hand trembling as she placed it against the heart of the Nexus. The energy around her flared, and for a moment, she thought she might be consumed. But then, something extraordinary happened. The energy bent to her will, swirling around her, forming a vortex of light and shadow, of creation and destruction. No more empires, Arya whispered, her voice shaking with the weight of her decision. No more destruction, only unity. The Nexus responded. The swirling vortex slowed, its energy diffusing across the room, softening into a warm, gentle glow. Arya felt the weight lift from her shoulders, the pressure of 1,000 years of war and loss dissolving in an instant. The galaxy was no longer on the edge of collapse. It was being reborn. You have chosen well, the voice of the Nexus said, now gentle, like a whisper in the wind. The galaxy shall be whole again, but the power you have awakened will not be used to rule. It will be used to heal, to bind the stars together in peace. The chamber around her began to shift, the walls fading into the background as the galaxy outside the chamber transformed. The stars grew brighter, the darkness receding as if the universe itself had been reborn. She could feel in the very air, in the light that streamed through the walls, the galaxies were converging, finding harmony. Arya looked back at her crew, who were watching in stunned silence. They had witnessed the transformation, but they didn't fully understand what she had just done. They didn't understand that she had not just saved the galaxy, she had reshaped it. She had brought the galaxies together, not through power, but through unity. It's over, Arya said, her voice steady now, filled with resolve. The universe has been given a new chance. We won't fight to rule it. We'll fight to protect it. The stars outside the chamber seemed to hum in response, as if acknowledging her words. Arya smiled softly, a weight lifting from her chest. She didn't have to be a ruler. She didn't have to bear the burden of an ancient empire. She was something more. She was a keeper of peace. As the Nexus began to dissolve into the stars, Arya stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the horizon. A new era had begun, and it was hers to protect. And in the distance, the stars twinkled brightly, their light now united in a peaceful symphony.